Winnie-the-Pooh chapter 4. And I'm just now realizing that I should probably do one where I just read the whole thing. So in the future, I will do one where I just read the whole thing. But it's okay. Chapter 4. So far, we have discovered that Christopher Robin is a little boy who has a stuffed animal plushie named Winnie the Pooh or Edward Bear. And somebody is reading him a story or making up a story for him because he's asked about a story about Winnie the Pooh, his stuffed animal. And this person we don't know who this person is so far, but this person has integrated Christopher Robin and Pooh into the story. And now we're on chapter 4. And thank you guys for coming back. But I will probably read the whole thing in one shot as well. But I've already started the chapters, so I'm going to finish the chapters, and then maybe another night I'll just read the whole thing for hours on end. But for now, here comes chapter 4. And James the cat has decided to leave. So at some point, he's going to want to come back in. Chapter 4. In which Eeyore loses a tail and Pooh finds one. The old gray donkey, Eeyore, stood by himself in a thistly corner of the forest, his front feet well apart, his head on one side, and thought about things. Sometimes he thought sadly to himself, why? And sometimes he thought, wherefore? And sometimes he thought, inasmuch as which? And sometimes he didn't quite know what he was thinking about. So when Winnie the Pooh came stumbling along, Eeyore was very glad to be able to stop thinking for a little bit. And in order to say, how do you do, in a gloomy manner to him, I have to get the Eeyore voice, right? I have to get the Eeyore voice. How do you do? How do you do? How do you do? And how are you? Said Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore shook his head from side to side. Not very how, he said. I don't seem to have felt at all how for a long time. Dear, dear, said Pooh, I'm sorry about that. Let's have a look at you. So Eeyore stood there, gazing sadly at the ground, and Winnie the Pooh walked all around him once. Why, what happened to your tail? He said in surprise. What has happened to it? Said Eeyore. It isn't there, said Winnie the Pooh. Are you sure? Said Eeyore. Well, either a tail is there or it isn't there. You can't make a mistake about it, and yours isn't there. Then what is? Asked Eeyore. Nothing, said Pooh. Let's have a look, said Eeyore, and he turned slowly around to the place where his tail had been a little while ago, And then, finding that he couldn't catch it up, he turned around the other way until he came back to where he was at first. And then he put his head down and looked between his front legs. And at last he said, with a long, sad sigh, "I believe you're right." "Of course I'm right," said Pooh. "That accounts for a great deal," said Eeyore gloomily. "It explains everything. No wonder." "You must have left it somewhere," said Winnie-the-Pooh. "Somebody must have taken it," said Eeyore. "How like them," he added after a long silence. Pooh felt that he ought to say something helpful about it, but didn't quite know what. So he decided to do something helpful instead. "Eeyore," he said solemnly, "I, Winnie-the-Pooh, will find your tail for you." I should have had this book like this whole time. "Thank you, Pooh," answered Eeyore. "You're a real friend," said he. "Not like some," he said. So Winnie-the-Pooh went off to find Eeyore's tail. It was a fine spring morning in the forest as he started out. Little soft clouds played happily in a blue sky, skipping from time to time in front of the sun, as if they had come to put it out, and then sliding away suddenly so that the next might have his turn. That's a nice image. That's cool. Through them and between them, the sun shone bravely, and a copse which had worn its furs all the year round seemed old and dowdy now, beside the new green lace which the beeches had put on so prettily. There's definitely some words here I don't know. COPSE. It's not corpse. And a copse which had worn its furs all year and seemed old and dowdy. I don't know. I'm sure someone will tell me, but I don't know right now. Through copse and spiny. Oh, spinny. Now we got copse and spinny together, and I don't know either of those words. Wait, where'd it go? There it is. Through copse and spinny marched Bear. Down open slopes of gorse. Are they doing this to me on purpose? Are they doing this to us on purpose? They might be doing this on purpose. All of those words are coming together now that I don't know in one sentence. Down open slopes of gorse and heather. I know what heather is. Over rocky beds of streams, up steep banks of sandstone, into the heather again. And so at last, tired and hungry, to the 100-acre wood. For it was in the 100-acre wood that Owl lived. And if anyone knows anything about anything, said Bear to himself, it's Owl, who knows something about something. Or, my name's not Winnie-the-Pooh, he said. Which it is, he said. So there you are. Did I show you that page? It's just Eeyore looking around for his tail. I'm going to start putting the book. I should have been doing this the whole time. Oh, but then I blocked Pooh. Okay. Anyway. Owl lived at the Chestnuts, an old world residence of great charm, which was grander than anybody else's, or seemed so to bear, because it had both a knocker and a bell pull. Underneath the knocker, there was a notice which said, "Please ring if an answer is required." But it says it like this. Please ring if an answer is required. Man, that makes my finger look super evil and weird with that shadow. Please ring if an answer is required. Underneath the bell pull, there was a notice which said, "Please something if an answer is not required. Please knock. Oh my God. Knock. Please knock if an answer is not required. Ring the bell if an answer is required. Please knock if an answer is not required. These notices had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell. Hang on. It's like a little joke on the reader. There's like little jokes on the reader. There's little jokes for the adult that's reading this to their kid. You know what I mean? There's little it's brilliant. It's actually brilliant. There's little jokes they put in here for you. Yes. It's not. It's so funny. It's cute. Okay. These notices had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell. For Owl, wise though he was in many ways, able to read and write and spell in his own name, W-O-I, no, W-L, yet somehow went all to pieces over delicate words like measles and buttered toast. Winnie-the-Pooh read the two notices very carefully. First from left to right, and afterwards, in case he had missed some of it, from right to left. Then, to make quite sure, he knocked and pulled the knocker, and he pulled and knocked the bell rope, and he called out in a very loud voice, "Owl, I require an answer." It's Bear speaking. And the door opened and Owl looked out. "Hello, Pooh," he said. "How's things?" "Terrible and sad," said Pooh, "because Eeyore, who is a friend of mine, has lost his tail. And he's moping about. So could you very kindly tell me how to find it for him?" "Well," said Owl, "the customary procedure in such cases is as follows." "What does crustimony proceed cake mean?" said Pooh. For I am a bear of very little brain, and long words bother me. It means the things to do. As long as it means that, I don't mind, said Pooh humbly. The thing to do is as follows. First, issue a reward. Then, just a moment, said Pooh, holding up his paw. What do we do to this? What were you saying? You sneezed just as you were going to tell me. Oh, he sneezed? I didn't sneeze, said Al. Yes, you did, Owl. Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't sneeze. You can't sneeze without knowing it. Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed, said Pooh. What I said was, first, issue a reward. It's so randomly silly. Oh my God. Because I don't know what's going on either. I'm reading it and I don't know what's going on. And then there's a little, oh my God. What I said was first issue a reward. Okay, wait. I'm going to read that again. In case anybody missed it, maybe nobody did. Maybe I'm the only one. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to go back. Hold on. Where did it start? Right there. Okay. Here's the joke. It's so subtle and so silly. It's okay. Wait, where was it? Where did it start? Hold on, you guys. The thing to do is as follows. Okay. So Pooh Bear is asking Al how to get the tail back, how to find the tail, Eeyore's tail. Okay. So he's saying, the thing to do is as follows. First, issue a reward. It's so silly. I can't stand it. First, issue a reward, says Owl. Just a moment, said Pooh, holding up his paw. What do we do? What do we do to this? What were you saying? You seemed just as you were going to tell me. Wait, you sneezed just as you were going to tell me. I'm sorry, I just messed this up so bad. I'm starting again. Here we go. Take three. The thing to do is as follows, said Owl. First, issue a reward. Then, just a moment, said Pooh, holding up his paw. What do we do to this? What were you saying? You sneezed just as you were going to tell me. I didn't sneeze, said Owl. Yes, you did, Owl, said Pooh. Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it. Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed, said Pooh. What I said was, first issue a reward. So stupid. Oh my God, it's such a silly. I don't know why I'm laughing at it. It's so silly. Okay. Issue, a chew, issue, a chew. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay, so you're doing it again, said Pooh. A reward, said Owl very loudly. We write a notice to say that we will give a large something to anybody who finds Eeyore's tail. I see, said Pooh, nodding his head. Talking about large somethings, he went on dreamily. I generally have something about now, about this time in the morning. And he looked wistfully at the cupboard in the corner of Owl's parlor. Just a mouthful of condensed milk or whatnot will perhaps, or with perhaps a lick of honey. Sorry, you guys, I'm kind of falling apart here. This is confused. This is not easy to read. It might be easier with a British accent. Well, then, said Owl, we write out this notice. And we put it up all over the forest. A lick of honey, murmured Bear to himself, or not, as the case may be. And he gave a deep sigh and tried very hard to listen to what Owl was saying from there on. And Owl went on and on, using longer and longer words, until at last he came back to where he started. And he explained that the person to write out this notice was Christopher Robin. It was he who wrote the ones on my front door for me. Did you see them, Pooh? For some time now, Pooh had been saying yes and no in turn, with his eyes shut, to all that Owl was saying and having said. Yes. Last time he said no, not at all. And now, without really knowing what Owl was talking about, no, not at all. Didn't you see them? Said Owl, a little surprised. Come and look at them now. So they went outside, and Pooh looked at the knocker and the notice below it, and he looked at the bell rope and the notice below it, and the more he looked at the bell rope and the more he felt that he had seen something like it somewhere else sometime before. Handsome bell rope, isn't it? Said Owl. Pooh nodded. It reminds me of something, he said, but I can't think what. Where did you get it? I just came across it in the forest. It was hanging over a bush, and I thought at first somebody lived there. So I rang it, and nothing happened. And then I rang it again very loudly, and it came off in my hand. And as nobody seemed to want it, I took it home. It sounds like me. Owl, said Pooh solemnly, you made a mistake. Somebody did want it. Who? Eeyore. My friend Eeyore. He was fond of it. Fond of it? Attached to it, said Winnie-the-Pooh sadly. So, with these words, he unhooked it and carried it back to Eeyore. And when Christopher Robin had nailed it on in its right place again, Eeyore frisked about the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie-the-Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home from a little snack of something. This is all written like super choppy. Like you got it. Like, okay, so I'm following the line here. Okay, hold on. Eeyore frisked about the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie-the-Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home for a little snack of something to sustain him. And wiping his mouth half an hour afterwards, he sang to himself proudly. Okay, this is all in one row. It was hard to read. Who found the tail? I, said Pooh. At 1:45. Only it was 11:45, really. I find the tail. See, it's an interesting story here. That's the end of chapter 4. All right. So Eeyore lost his tail. Pooh found his tail. All right. All right. All right. I'm going to end this, and I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 5. I'm going to keep going. I'm also going to keep going. I think really I could sit down and read this whole thing. So I might do 2 things. So if there's people who want to read chapter by chapter, I don't know. Maybe that's just silliness that I already did this. But I'm going to go ahead and play this part out. I'm going to go ahead and do chapter by chapter like I'm doing. And then maybe next week I'll just Sunday night just read the whole thing in a row, however long it takes. That might be the thing to do, really. So anyway, thank you for being here. If you want to come back, I am going to read chapter 5. We're just going to keep going. Because I'm a little, once I start, I can't stop. All right, hang on. All right. Wait, now I don't even remember where I'm at here. Hold on. I've got too many devices open. All right. End broadcast. I'll be back in 5 minutes max.